Welcome to the Faith and Fiction podcast.
Your hosts, Naomi, Malyk and Noah Gomez, will take you on a turbulent voyage of topic and discussion.
Of heroes and villains,
famous novels and inspiring poetry,
kingdoms and chivalry,
wizards and magic,
books of wisdom and books of fable, and much, much more.
But most importantly,
immerse yourself in the inevitable Christian conversations.
So join Naomi and Noah in the art of reading and writing,
and unlock the doors of the literary realm.
Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of Faith and Fiction. Your two hosts today are Naomi, Malyk and
Noah Gomez.
Today we will just be having a fun introduction to who we are, what we're about, just introducing the podcast and what we're hoping to accomplish through the series that we do. Today we're just going to start by talking through our current projects, what inspires us, some quotes, and then we've got some fun questions as well further along. But I'm quite excited.
Yep.
So I don't know if Noah, you've got the first quote to start us off. Either that or I've got mine ready.
Yeah, I can share mine. So yeah, mine is from a book called The Roar on the Other Side. It's by Suzanne Rhodes, and it's found in the introduction. I'll just read the paragraph now. To write, you must learn quiet. This is hard because the world we live in is loud. There is the noise of TV, traffic, sirens, telephones, dishwashers, barking dogs. You get in a car and the radio is automatically blaring. At the mall, you shop to the stampede of rock. Our Creator asks us to be still and know that I am God. Not many people practice being still. Even young children today seem to have sprouted headphones. If we cultivate the art of inner quiet and develop habits to nurture the mind's green fields, we will hear the melodies of heaven.
Wow. That's a gorgeous quote. Is that from a book you've read recently?
Yeah, I read this a couple of months ago. I finished reading it. It's a book about poetry mainly, but yeah, I really liked that introduction because it doesn't just apply to poetry, it also applies to just any kind of writing. But yeah.
I love the line saying how children were sprouting with headphones. I think it's so true.
Yep.
But I love the way that it said. Well, thank you. If you're up for it, we're just gonna go straight in. And are you happy to answer the first question? Who are you, Noah Gomez? What are you interested in? What are your projects? Who are you inspired by? Just so people can get to know you a bit more.
Right. So, I live in Bradford. It's a very thrilling city. And I actually come from Mexico. I am part Romanian, so I'm a bit of a mix of everything. And I started writing at the age of 7, just quick, like stories, really short stories. They were all in Spanish at first, which is really
That's cool.
interesting to see it from now that, yeah, now I write in English. I can't really, it's really difficult for me to write in Spanish now. But yeah, I think my greatest inspiration comes from Tolkien, from, Lord of the Rings and Silmarillion and all that. That really has shaped my writing a lot.
Have you got any current projects, or I guess you've already said your inspirations of Tolkien, but what are your current projects, if you have any, or do you have any other inspirations that you often look to?
My current projects are I'm currently planning a book, like a series. It is inspired or based on a previous book that I've been writing. So currently I'm more in the planning stage. Um, I have finished some novels which have led up to this. Yeah.
Hmm. Those are they're very Tolkien styled. I think the one I read prior, are you going for the same style again in this, would you say rewrite?
Uh, yes, I've been trying to write in that style that it kind of has. I've shaped my own style, and it sounds quite a lot like that, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So I don't know. Yeah, I guess it is very Tolkien-y.
Have you got a lot of long descriptions?
That is one thing which I I need to get better at. I think, well, I don't know. I guess Tolkien does over describe everything a little bit. It's great and all, but um, I'm not in that stage yet.
I think I do the opposite. I write long descriptions, but then if I'm the one reading it, I just like skim past to the exciting bits in the book. Um, but I am definitely one who gets sucked into, I guess it's quite being quite flowery in the way that you're writing the area around. I get sucked
Hmm.
into it way too easily. Um, but that's quite nice. We got a contrast there. Um, different writing
Yep.
styles. Um, well, similarly for me, I am currently based around Loughborough area. Um, I am hugely inspired by history. I've done quite a few history courses now, and I've found that a lot of it inspires my writing quite a lot. I think the main people who inspire me are also Tolkien. I love the way he writes. I also love historical figures like Aristotle and um, Pluto. Those are a huge part of, especially my current project at the moment, which is it's called The Crowns of Virtue, which I'm currently still writing the debut novel, but eventually I'm praying it will be a 7 book series. But one step at a time. I properly started writing that, I think, maybe 2 years ago now. So maybe just hitting that two year mark. Um, maybe even 3 planning it. But um, that is about 5 kids who get transported to a world based on virtue and morals and how they navigate not just developing their character, but also trying to get back home. So yeah, definitely enjoying the journey. Um, that's about it for me.
Yep. I've had a little sneak peek into it, into Crowns of Virtue, and I can tell that I can't wait for it to be finished and for everyone to read it
Oh, thank
and
you.
have it in their bookshelf.
I'm very excited though. It's getting there. I think it's still got a lot of work to be done, but Noah knows this, but he's helped me a lot through the process. So I'm very grateful for his skill, for his knowledge, and for his companionship. Anything else you'd like to add, or are you ready to get right in with the questions?
We could get right in the questions. Although, do you have a quote yourself? Do you have a quote that you want to share?
Yes, yes, I do. So this mine isn't as long as yours, but
Okay.
I when I was looking to find one, this one really stood out to me. Um, and it is fairy tales are more than true, not because they tell us dragons exist, but because they tell us dragons can be beaten. And that is often attributed to G.K. Chesterton, if you've heard his name before. Um, but
Yep.
I do love that. It's so true. Um, and I guess though that would depend if you've got a happy ending or your villain is defeated in the end. But I think the concept of it is on a positive tone, and I would aim for that in my books that I write anyway. Yeah. Anything else that you found that you liked in your reading or writing?
So yeah, how about like we share what we're reading currently? I'm currently reading, ooh, well, apart from the Bible, obviously.
It's a priority.
Um, I'm currently trying to read through Fantasties. I just started the first couple chapters. My mom read it and she really recommended it to me. Um, and yeah, it's all like about the fairy world, and apparently C.S. Lewis inspired himself from it, which is interesting.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'll just see how that goes.
You'll definitely have to fill us in on that. I think that was one of the books we were thinking of exploring at some point, so maybe we'll get to hear more of that further down the line. But what is its like genre, if that's the right word? Like, what is it? What would you categorize it as?
Definitely fantasy. Um, yeah,
E.
it's literally just yeah, it's literally just the main character going into this fairy world and seeing all these. It's like it's the world of imagination, you know.
I definitely need to have a look at it. You have to tell me what you think as well at the end. At the moment, I do need to get back into reading and finishing a lot of the books on my bookshelf. I think currently I've been often skimming quite a few times. Ourselves by Charlotte and Mason, um, which
Hmm.
is on different subjects of human nature, character, how that looks in terms of a biblical perspective, psychology, theology, um, different things like that. Um, and just coming to understand ourselves a bit more. But I really like the way that she writes. So it's been quite nice to look at that. Um, though some of her sentences are very long. I have been surprised by how long her sentences have been.
Yes. Uh-huh.
It's been like a paragraph. So I feel a bit more confident that, it, like you said, there's not one way to write. There's multiple ways to do it, and there isn't a rule. Even with like
Hmm.
she's probably well, she's one of the what's the word? The OGs. One of the she, she's a very good writer of our history, and I think it's important to look back on what
Yep.
she's written. But I wasn't
Hmm.
expecting it from her, if that makes sense. So to see that it's not, you don't have to have it exact way or three lines of in a sentence that's long, or I think that was quite helpful to see that, oh wow, it can be a paragraph. Whether that's the easiest to
Yeah.
read, I don't know, but it doesn't mean that it can't be. But yeah.
Yeah, and I also think like the more like old writers used to write that way. I noticed that a lot in, Charles Dickens, Great Expectations, stuff like that. Um,
Mm,
More of the Victorian era of writing used to be a lot long sentences, um,
mm.
chunky paragraphs. I think that was kind of like the style at the time.
Or do you remember that was similar to, was it Great Expectations that we read in one of our courses?
Yep. What a thrilling book that was, wasn't it?
That was definitely an interesting one.
Yeah, we have to make a
Um,
whole episode just
oh,
to
oh,
express
yeah.
our
A trauma from reading. But
trauma. That is
I,
the word.
I wouldn't mind bringing up some passages. Maybe we could do a friendly critique of his long descriptions and long. I don't even know what it is. It was just really hard to read. Um, Whether that was a
Yeah.
mixture of, like you say, Victorian era writing or just his style, I'm not quite sure. But I don't know, maybe we can explore that further along. Um, well, Noah, when did you first feel called to write faith-based content, and how did that journey begin for you?
That is a great question because um, I only started writing more faith-based, novels, content just like 2 years ago or maybe less. Since then, well, before then, um, it was just writing my imagination and fantasy and that kind of thing. But
Mm.
I wanted to incorporate theology into it, and I wanted to incorporate a lot of symbolism and meanings, and not just be a fictional story, but so it has a deeper meaning to it.
That's really cool. Did that start with the book that you're hoping to continue now, or was that other stories?
Yeah, it's the one that I'm planning currently.
Oh, that's really cool. I can't wait to see where that goes then and the deeper meanings that maybe we can talk about eventually, at some part.
Yeah.
I think for me, it wasn't, I've always loved deep meanings. I think as a bit of an overthinker, I love that kind of puzzle that you can create and layer after layer of meaning. I think it really
Hmm.
adds to the story, and I think it adds to the enjoyability of writing it. It's all those little secrets that the readers can find and you can hide. Um, but I think for me, I with this book that I'm currently writing, it was a very God-given idea because I was staying at my grandparents and I don't know what I was doing. I think I was doing a very quite a tough English course at the time, and I didn't really do any writing for the enjoyment of it, not consistently anyway. Wrote a few quotes and things on my mind here and there, but I've never really thought, oh, I should write a book. But I was just sitting
Hmm.
in bed and this idea just popped into my head, and I just felt like, yeah, I should write this. This feels like something I should do. And I really think it was an idea and God called book because that generally doesn't just happen. Um,
Hmm.
and the more it's gone and created, and the more I've started to plan it, the more I see that, well, I'm very proud of this, and I really hope that God can use it. And I think that was maybe, only about two or three, like when I was starting the book 2 or 3 years ago, that the idea kind of came. And now I'm just really starting to put that into words. Um, so I'm quite
Hmm.
excited.
And yeah, it's also like a really good way to reach others because fictional books and fantasy and this kind of thing is really popular nowadays, and people like to
Mm.
get lost in these worlds and in the imagination. But having these deeper meanings, is symbolism, connections with um the Bible and Christianity, it does help a lot. And also as writers, it helped my journey as well. I like as I'm writing it, um, it's just been great.
Yeah, I think hearing from some of the process you've been doing as well, you've been mixing in some meanings with other languages as well. So I think, was it Latin
Hmm.
you were
Yeah.
embedding some deeper meanings with?
Yes, Latin and a little bit of Greek.
Those are the two I often use. I wonder why we automatically go to those. I guess they're just,
I guess we won't be using Chinese either, so.
to be fair, I think I have used that in one of my books, but it was just because the word I was using it for, it
Uh-huh.
resembles a martial art, and martial arts generally come from Asian cultures, and I
Hmm.
wanted the word to be where it originated. It was either Japan or China, so I put it in that, and then
Yeah.
it was called the name it is said in that country. So I have used that
Uh-huh.
one, but like you, I ultimately just go for Greek and Latin. They're such cool languages, though. Really cool languages.
Hmm.
So starting back on our first discussion question, what is a writer?
Would you like to talk about that first?
I don't think I had as many notes on it as you did, so I don't mind going first. Um, I was really trying to think about this and try to tackle it, and because people could ask, can anyone be a writer? And I wouldn't say, I think there are definitely people who struggle to write, but there are definitely people who are naturally talented at it. Whether I'd say there are some people who could never write, I don't think that's true because people can develop that skill up. But I think for me, three main things came up when if I was to identify a writer. Um, I would say a writer is able to communicate through words three things, which is um, what you imagine, so what you imagine in your head, what you
Yeah.
feel, so your emotions, communicating your emotions into words, and then what you see, so what you see in the world, what you're inspired by. So those three things, I would say, are the three base um, things of a writer in my head. Um, and that could look in variable different ways. Um, I wouldn't say that if you couldn't write, I don't know, what you see, that you wouldn't be a writer, but I would be questioning if you're able to write well without that
Yeah.
inspiration coming in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think those are actually some good points. That was a solid list. That's pretty much what Google said when I asked it the question. Yeah, it said a writer is a person who uses written words in different writing styles, genres, and techniques to communicate ideas, to inspire feelings and emotions, or to entertain. So it's really similar to what you said. Um, and yeah, the only thing that I would probably add is it is true that not everyone finds writing easy. People do struggle with it, and so I think one of the things that makes a writer is if they can express themselves clearly and yeah, as what you said, their imagination, what they imagine, what inspires them, and their feelings, their emotions, um, and yeah, how they put that on paper, and how transmit that across to the reader.
Yeah, 100%. I think definitely practice is a huge part as well. I think,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, and I think as a writer, the more you write, the more you understand yourself and the way that you feel. I
Mm-hmm.
think I've often, I did forget to say, but one of my other, it's just a little side project, but if I'm say I've got feeling strong emotions and I want to write that out, almost a bit like journaling. Maybe I'm sad, I'm happy, excited, or angry. Those strong base emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I like to write quotes, or maybe based on how I'm feeling, or stuff like that. And I've created a mini. I thought, why not put that into a little book of itself? So almost kind of like a poetry book in its format, but it's quotes. And that's I think the current name at the moment is Emotions Described as One's Thoughts. Whether I
Wow.
change the title, I don't know, but I think that is often the case. A writer will explain their emotions and how they
Yeah.
feel into their writing, and I think that does take time and that does take practice and not just understanding yourself, even though that is a huge part, but then as you're branching out to write other characters and other people, I'm a huge believer that characters will have a piece of you in every single part of
Mm-hmm.
them, but at the same time, you're writing completely different people. And that is a skill in itself.
Yeah, definitely. I think yeah, practice makes perfect, as the phrase goes. Um, and yeah, I've gone through so many short stories, so many. I do remember the way I used to write was very different to how I write now, obviously, but that doesn't mean that time was wasted. It's
No.
definitely it's helped me reach where I am now. So yeah, definitely practicing
Mm.
helps a lot.
Yeah, it's similar to I think I said on one of our previous calls. I don't know if I think it was Tolkien, but I think he wrote a list or a letter to a student who was asking him how to be a writer. And yet I think one of the things on this list was saying, don't throw any of your writings away. even if it may be in
Hmm.
your eyes the worst thing you've ever written, because you can always
Yeah.
come back and potentially use it in the future. Um, See, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist in my writing. So there's been many times I've just like, especially writing digitally, I'm like, oh, let's just get rid of that line. I don't need
Yep.
that.
Delete. Uh-huh.
Yeah, never to see the light of day again. But I definitely think that I should maybe prioritize that more and um, maybe instead of, striving for practices perfect, maybe more like practices progress, like the other
Yeah.
saying is. And I think,
Hmm.
like you say, we can definitely see process in our own writings as time goes on, and staying consistent in our goals, even if not actively working towards them. I think still having that consistent goal to write helps.
Oh, oh, you've reached something there. Consistency. Let's not get there on episode one.
getting getting away with ourselves. So that's a good reminder to probably move to the next question. You have to answer this
Yep.
one first. Okay, so how can we inspire others with our writing?
How can we inspire others with our writing? I
Hmm.
think we've kind of answered this a little bit previously, but as Christians, I think we can definitely do a lot of inspiring. For example, us as fictional writers, we can definitely, God created us in his image, right? And so whatever we imagine or whatever we create, um, they're in his likeness as well. So we have that capability to create things that reflect him.
Mm,
And so putting that in our writing is important, as in choosing how to do in the writing, you know?
mm,
So it's, yeah, I think we can definitely inspire others through that. Yeah, hidden meaning, symbolism, connections with the Bible, um,
mm.
like morality, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's really well put. I am gonna be quite honest, I didn't quite think about that connection. I think as Christians, we might lean naturally as a writer to um, putting biblical themes into our writing, and that is another question I think we have lined up in the future, which is, should
Yeah.
Christians involve their faith into their writing? So we won't go
Hmm.
into that whole today, but I think we will naturally, as Christians, lean towards doing that anyway. And like you say, it is a
Hmm.
challenge to not just do it, but in our own heads, how do we do that right and in a way that best glorifies our God and our Savior? I think I took a note as in, as Christians, and even for non-Christians as well, I think you should aim to have an overall positive influence on your readers. I think the overall experience should be a positive influence. Now, don't get me wrong, I think it's important to have struggle. I think it's important to have moments, when you're walking in the valley, difficulty, resonation with your characters, people to be able to understand and relate, because we are human at the end of the day, and that in itself, that's what Jesus did. He came by our side and felt our pain, and I think it's important to, well, it's an important part of books in itself that you've got to, overcome something that comes your way,
Hmm.
but involving that element, to I wouldn't want to rush past that to have an overall positive. Like sometimes that can feel shallow. I think that's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say. Without
Uh-huh.
struggle and the understanding, it can feel shallow if you rush that. So definitely having a positive influence. And like you said, you talked about this already, but I think, oh, and this is what I'm doing with my book, but is involving virtue and different virtues of character and morals.
Hmm.
How can that be shown through books? I think as well, especially with today's society, you've got so many books that are just merely for entertainment, or
Yeah.
everyone's got their own ideology and things like that that they're wanting to share, whether good or bad. And I think unfortunately nowadays, unless it's a classic, a majority of the books are very shallow. for entertainment. There's a lot of
Yeah.
themes that I wouldn't personally write about, such as like smut and, darker themes such as
Depression.
that. Yeah.
Hmm.
I think there's allowed themes of depression, but not entire books on it, I think, or just,
Yeah.
stuff like that. I think you have to have a balance. And I think if your entire book is based on one subject, such as something as, like I was saying before, if it's the whole thing is a negative influence, then I wouldn't agree that's a good way to inspire our
Hmm.
readers.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
That one took a
any more
while,
thoughts?
but it was good.
Yeah. Well, keeping us on track, our last but not least important question. Can you and should you create multiple books at once?
I will start by saying it doesn't it doesn't really matter. Personal choice, to be honest.
Mm,
If you have a lot of ideas in mind, if you have yeah, different stories, if you want to create something about some space travel, but then you also want to write about, you know, kind of a countryside descriptions or whatever, um, you can definitely create different books at once. I think the you might struggle to switch between like writings, you know, as
mm,
in you might have the same style on all of them, uh, and you can definitely get overwhelmed, I think. There's the risk of overwhelming yourself, um, and the risk of spending too much imagination and creativity at once.
mm,
But yeah, I've personally have written a lot of multiple books at once. One of them of, you know, fantasy related, another one like a poetry, a poem. Um, so yeah, I would say it doesn't matter. I would agree with it. I would. Should you create? Now that's a different thing. Should you create? I don't know.
You
What do you
stole
think?
my line, Noah. Well, I was gonna my literal starting point was gonna be, can you write multiple books at once? Yes. But should
Mhm.
you? Not
Should
so
you?
much. But you stole that. For me, I started just I think it was helpful for my brain anyway. I think it depends on the book you're writing. If you're writing a deep, deep book, one that you involves a lot of meaning,
Hmm.
with any book, you should have a lot of planning beforehand. So for me, it was helpful to just do a lot of planning, a lot of drawing, focus on starting. I think I just wanted this one book. I just wanted to get this one book. There's one idea, the one, like my principles out, how I wanted it to look. So I did a lot of sketches and, just notes in this one notebook and doodles and all sorts. And you could say that's a varied way of, um, planning it out, but it's still working on the one
Hmm.
book. I think it's
Yeah.
only now that I'm starting to, I think I'd say around maybe I'm halfway through my first, that I'm like, actually, I've done a lot of work on this now, and I tend to switch to editing, whilst I'm trying to write, which isn't helpful, but it's something I will do naturally, as I'm going
Mm.
through. Like I was saying before, I started that quotes thing on the side that if I just need to get something out or get a bit of there's writer's block, which we need to start talking about, but also like writing burnout. I think sometimes if you've worked on a project for a bit, like it's not that you're throwing it out the window, but for someone who I need that variety and to mix it up a bit, for me it was helpful just to have a little project on the side. It's nothing huge, nothing that needs a lot of commitment, but it's just something I can do when I want to mix it up a bit. When
Yeah.
I'm having it's a little bit like mixed media in art. You could spend doing this whole artwork and sketching and spending hours on it, but halfway through, maybe it's taking you 3 days and you're still working on it, like you want to work on something else and then come back to it,
Hmm.
and you might have, fresh eyes because you've mixed up a bit. So that would be my approach, which is for me, it was helpful later on the line to mix things up and to work on another book, but then still have that as my primary focus. Whereas other people, like you say, might have multiple ideas at once, and um, you run that risk of getting overwhelmed. But I would
Hmm.
probably lean towards having one book as a priority to finish at a time.
And yeah, then again, there's also moods. I want to write something, but I don't want to continue, my main book. I just don't have the creativity to do that. Um,
Mm.
and I don't just want to write something that will just for the sake of writing. So I mean, then again, there's the topic of consistency, which we're probably gonna get onto some other time. But to just write, for example, oh, that day I want to write something, and instead of just saying, "Oh, I don't feel like in the mood to write in this book," I'm just gonna stop writing. Instead of doing that, I like to just write something else. If I've watched a movie, let's say I don't know, Little Women,
Mm.
I kind of want to write something that sounds like that, a very something very British, something very like Victorian. But I
Mm.
probably won't go back to it. But it's just something to keep me writing, keep my imagination going. Yeah.
Do you find you do that with your poems? Do you write poetry as a way to mix things up a bit, or is that just something you can just
Oh yes.
focus on?
If I'm not in the mood for something, then for one type of writing, then I'll probably switch to poetry. I've currently paused it, but another one of my projects that is is on the go is this book that is written all in verse. And so sometimes I like to every now and then go back to it because it's coming along.
No, that's really good. You'll definitely have to read one of your poems on here at some point because I'd love to hear it. Because I think you showed me a song you'd written a few months ago
Oh yeah.
or last
Hmm.
year, and that did have some kind of rhyme scheme that I thought looked quite poetic. But I don't think I've actually read
Hmm.
any of your poems, so you'll definitely have to share one of those at some point.
Yeah, I think I will. If the listeners want to have a little sneak peek into the into my poetry writing, then I will consider it. Yeah.
Mm. Oh, well, I think that is the last of our questions.
Well, for now.
For now, for episode one. Um, oh, well, thank you, Noah, for our discussions. Very excited for our next one to see where this goes. And thank you, listeners, for joining us.